This is Eric. I'm here to talk about the musical alphabet using this lovely kawaii piano as an aid. Anyone who doesn't already know can see that the piano consists of pairs of black keys and trios or triplets of black keys. 2, 3, 2, 3. It's a little hard to see this with my hand through the camera. 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 2. Everything is 3 and 2 until the bottom there, which is just a 1. But really that 1 is like this set of 3s. So if you can imagine 3 there, 2 there, and then 3 more would have to be the next pattern, right? So this key is actually like this one. Okay, so the black keys are used to name the white keys. So given this pattern, yeah, there are 88 of them. But thankfully, we don't have to memorize 88 different notes. And by the way, music can go lower than that note and higher than that note. Really, all we need to think about is 12 notes. And the reason is because observing this pattern and including the white keys with them, we can see that everything starts over. If we said this is our starting note, that would be the next one like it. You can hear those notes sound very clean together. They're both C. But anyway, if you count them all up, you'll get 12. 12 is the magic number to memorize. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then it starts over, so 13 is like 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 white keys. And 5 black keys, 2 there and 3 there. 7 plus 5 is 12. Okay, so you may ask yourself, why should we have some black keys and why should we have some white keys? The answer is practicality for playing common things that you would need in music. At least that's one way of describing it. So I'll just tell you that this is C. And observe carefully. C, D, E, F, G, A, not H, but A, B, C. When we said that this one was C, those are both C. Notice that this sounds pretty nice. When we put C with C, it sounds good, and that's why they're actually named that way. Any key will go with its a key of the same name. These ones go together. These ones go together. The distance between every pair of notes I'm playing is called 1 octave. You've probably heard that word octave before. Okay, so if this is C, you may ask yourself, well, why isn't this A? If this is the one that sounds nice, why isn't it A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A? The answer to that is pretty arbitrary. It goes back to, I think, a monk inventing an instrument and happening to name things according to something. So it's really kind of a stupid reason. It's one of the stupidest things about music, but now that you know that there's no really good reason for it, you can just say, music starts with C. All right. I mean, that's one way of describing it. Now for the black keys, you have sharp names for all of these black keys here. And all the others, but it's really the only ones we need to look at, really. And flat names, sharp and flat. Sharp means higher than, flat means lower than. Okay, well, if this is the note C, and this is D, this note in between, if you look carefully, and hopefully if you can hear that, this one is in between these two, not only physically in some sense, but also sonically. This one's a little bit higher than that one, and this one's a little bit lower than that one. So it's going up as you go to the right, and down as you go to the left. Anyway, if sharp means higher than, and this is C, then this must be called C sharp, because it's higher than C. C, C sharp, D. But another name for this would be D flat, because it's lower than D. D, D flat, C. Now you should hopefully be asking yourself, why should we have two different names for this, and how do we know which one to call it? The answer is all about context. There are certain times when it will be much more convenient to call this a C sharp, and other times when it's much more convenient to call it a D flat. So that's all dependent on the key and the chords, and it's contextual. It's dependent on your situation. So more about that later. Anyway, this is D. This is D sharp or E flat, because that's E. Notice that there is no black key here between E and F. We're going to talk a little more about that later. Likewise, there's no black key between B and C. Same thing here, B and C. Okay, so anyway, looking at F and G, this is F and that's G. This must be called F sharp, because it's higher than F, but it also must be called G flat because it's lower than G. Here we have G and A. G and A. So one higher than G must be G sharp, but also one lower than A must be A flat. A, B, A sharp, or B flat. One more time, C sharp or D flat, D sharp or E flat, F sharp or G flat, G sharp or A flat, A sharp or B flat. And then of course the white key names, which are easier, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Now let's talk for a moment about E and F, as well as B and C. So going back to that arbitrary thing I mentioned, which is that we happen to call this C, even though we might have wanted to call it A. The musical alphabet really just has the first 7 letters of the alphabet. If we happen to C, B, A, if we start on A here, we can see A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So there's the one you're looking for. It just doesn't sound quite as convincing as the one starting on C. Here's what A through G sounds like. And you'd have another A on top if you want to complete the octave. So that part is arbitrary, that we start on C. But another thing that's arbitrary is the fact that there is no black key between B and C, nor between E and F. What's the reason, you might ask? Well, it's actually a little more solid of a reason than the fact that this is called C. This one is actually much more practical, and it isn't so arbitrary, but it's a bit arbitrary. The reason is, if we are in the key of C, that means that the main note we're listening for, the note we'd like to get to by the end of our piece of music, is this C. So you think about Mary Had a Little Lamb, tiny example. Notice that after all that noodling about, the note we really wanted to get to was C. So that piece is in the key of C. Or that song, Mary Had a Little Lamb, is in C. C major, to be more specific. And as it turns out, C is a very convenient key to play on a piano. If you want just to name the letters C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C and have some convenient notes to play without having to scoot up into black keys, which can be physically a little bit awkward depending on your level of experience, then it's really nice that we have E and F right next door to each other and B and C right next door to each other. Because we want to hear that distance between the notes. That sounds good. Likewise, it actually gives you something interesting to think about. From here to here, you did skip a black key. From here to here, you did skip a black key. But from here to here, you didn't. And notice that these two notes, when played together, sound more stinging. This is not exactly pleasant, but it sounds almost like a question, if you ask me. But this one sounds like you've been stung by a bee. Okay, so there's that. Sort of okay, pretty painful. If you start here again on G, so that's the next note above where we had just stopped, and apply the same pattern, you'll get sort of okay, and pretty painful. As it turns out, when you put these all together, C, D, E, F, that's called a tetrachord, from the Greek for four, tetra, four-note chord in some sense, even though we don't usually think of chords that way, as you'll find out later. And this is also a tetrachord. Tetrachord, tetrachord. We'll move on later to whole steps and half steps, but using the example of C major, we have a convenient key to play in using only the white keys on the piano. As a result of using this pattern of no black keys here and no black keys here, but black keys everywhere else. If you think about it, suppose we always had white, black, white, black, white, black, white, black all the time. Well, we wouldn't have any convenient way of finding our way around the piano. So we wouldn't have these nice sets of 2 or 3 black keys.